Hello, you beautiful people. Today I wanted to talk about my top 10 power forwards for fantasy points leagues this season. So before we begin, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to, and leave who you think the best power forward is for points leagues in the comments below. So this is only including players whose primary position is power forward, so no center slash power forwards, no small forward slash power forwards, unless like the primary position is power forward. And yeah, let's jump right into the video. So coming in at the number 10 spot, we have someone that hasn't actually played a game yet this year, and that's why he's rated so low, but it's just due to his injury, and he is projected to return like very soon. Like he was doubtful the game before the Grizzlies games all started getting postponed. And yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. was a really solid player last year, and once he stops fouling everything that moves, and I think that's definitely going to improve this season just because of the maturation that every player goes through when they start adjusting to the defense in the league. And yeah, I think he's going to be a really good fantasy player. He puts up good threes, really good block percentage. He's good scoring the ball. Not so great at rebounding for a big, but he's still like an adequate rebounder. And yeah, I think he's going to finish the season as the 10th best power forward in fantasy points leagues this year. Then at the number 9 spot, we have someone that I just talked about in my most underrated players, and that's Aaron Gordon. So I don't want to talk about him too much just because, like I said, I just mentioned him in another video, so you can go check that out if you want to hear more about Aaron Gordon. But yeah, the main reason that his value has increased so much this season is just due to the more assists that he's getting. He's really worked on his playmaking, and he's really showing in his assist numbers. His scoring's been good, and he's really good at grabbing rebounds as well, which you'd kind of expect due to his athleticism, but it's good to see that he's finally having his best season with the Magic. I still hope he gets traded, but yeah, for right now, I think he's going to finish the year as the 9th best power forward. At the 8th spot, I have John Collins, and I don't know what it is with John Collins, man, but I think he's a really good player, and I know he's asking for a max contract. I don't think he's worth a max contract, but if the Hawks aren't willing to pay him, I'd love to see my Celtics pick him up, just because I think he'd be a really good addition to the team. But if he stays on the Hawks, I can see him finishing the season as the 8th best power forward. So he's a really explosive athlete like Aaron Gordon. He's really good at scoring the ball. His three-point shot, it looks really legit, honestly. His percentages are good. He's good at grabbing rebounds. Him and Capella are just demolishing the rebounds down there in Atlanta. So yeah, I think he's going to finish the season in 8th place for my rankings. And yeah, let's move on to the next player. Next up at the 7th spot, we have Tingus Pingus, and Kristaps Porzingis has potential to move into the top 5, but he just really hasn't displayed the ability to be perfectly healthy for a season. And I think I'm more concerned about his health risks than I am about anyone else in the league, and I just really don't trust him to be able to stay on the court. So that's the only thing that's really hampering his rating. He's a really good player, he's a really good scorer. He makes the Mavericks a lot better team when he's on the court, but like I said, the only reason he's not rated higher is just because of that injury risk, and the reason he's above the guys that have already been stated is just because he has the potential to be better than those guys even with the injury concerns. But I feel like if he's going to have as unhealthy of a season as I think he's going to have, there's no way he gets rated any higher than this. Now we move on to a player that's been severely underperforming to start the season, and that's Spinny P. And he's their number 1 option in Toronto, and Toronto just as a whole has really been struggling this year, but they're starting to turn it around a little bit these past few games. I think Siakam is going to bounce back to his numbers from last season, so if you have him on your team, I would just wait it out. And because he is a really solid player, he gets clowned a lot for the playoff performances, but he's a good contributor in points, rebounds, and he gets a lot of touches in Toronto's offense. So yeah, I think he's going to finish the season as the 6th best power forward. At the number 5 spot, we have Zion Williamson, who is another huge injury concern, and if he's on your team, I'd definitely look into trading him just because, like, him and Joel Embiid, man, are like the same injury risk level to me, and like it just sketches me out having them on my roster. But he is a really, really good player, and he's honestly just a freak athlete, really insane scorer. He contributes in blocks and rebounds, so that definitely helps his points value as well, just because you're getting a lot of diversity in case he's not scoring the ball efficiently on one night. But again, the thing that hurts him is his free throw percentage, which isn't great, and I don't think he scored a shot outside the paint, which is definitely rough if if the other team has like a really good rim protector. And yeah, that combined with his huge injury risk would make me hesitate on putting him any higher than this, but he just has such a high baseline of potential just because he is such a good player so that I think he's going to finish the season as the 5th best power forward. At number 4, we have the greatest basketball player of all time, Julius Randle. Like, I don't even have to say very much about him, but I mean, come on, it's Julius Randle. My very first video on the channel was about him because he is a GOAT, and I just love him. And I think he is going to, I mean, if we're being realistic, his fantasy value is going to drop down a little bit, but I don't see it going any lower than any of the guys that have been rated before him. And yeah, Julius Randle, I love you. The Knicks are taking it all this year. Knicks in 7. I don't care about the Nets. I don't care about the Lakers. Knicks are going all the way. Coming in third, we have one of my favorite fantasy players, and that's Domantas Sabonis. And the reason I like him so much for fantasy is, like I've mentioned him in a lot of videos too, so I won't go too deep into it, but he's just such a solid all-around producer for fantasy. I mean, his rebounding ability is just so great that even if he's having an off night points-wise, which like wouldn't be lower than like 15 points for him, his rebound is always going to keep his fantasy value up, and it just sets such excuse me, it just sets such a good baseline that even if he is having an off game, that like it doesn't even matter because he is going to rebound the ball, and when he has a good game, then he's just going to erupt in the fantasy box score numbers. And yeah, I think he's just a great player to have, and he's coming in at the number 3 spot. And then coming in second, we have Anthony Davis. And the only thing that pisses me off about Anthony Davis is if you have him on your fantasy team, I know you see that day to day every single time the Lakers have a game so they can cheese the damn load management fine. And while he hasn't really missed any games this season, he is missing his first one tonight, which is kind of unfortunate because I have him on my team and I really needed him tonight. But anyway, we won't get too much into that. He has been a really solid producer for fantasy. He's just an all-around great player. That's why I picked him for my MVP for categories leagues, if you guys saw that video. But yeah, he's just a really awesome player to have because his scoring ability, his rebounding, his blocks. I mean, it's Anthony Davis, man. Like, he can just do it all. And the only reason he's below the person that I have as a number 1 seed, which I assume you can all guess by now, is just because there's so many options on the Lakers team that it does sort of take away from Anthony Davis's value, but not enough for me to put him any lower than 2 on this list. And finally, my pick for who I think is going to end the season as the best power forward in points leagues, it's got to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, man. I mean, I know he has somehow forgot how to shoot a free throw like at all. Like, he already wasn't a great free throw shooter, and he's just sort of turned into like one of the worst free throw shooters in the league, and it's really painful. But when you're contributing as much as Giannis is in like every single category, and he always plays hard, he always puts in effort every single night, you don't have to worry about him sitting out games because, like I said, Giannis just wants to win. He's a true competitor. Great player to have in fantasy. He's putting up insane numbers as always, putting up 26 points a game, 11 rebounds. Like, come on, man. Those are just ridiculous. And also, like, he has those off nights from the free throw line, like I mentioned. But when you're going to the free throw line as often as Giannis is, it doesn't matter too much because normally he is like above 60%. So it won't hurt you too much, especially when you're getting 11 rebounds a game. So yeah, that's going to conclude the video. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Like I said, leave your guys' picks for who you think is going to be the best power forward in points leagues by the end of the year in the comments. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a great day. Julius Randle's still the GOAT, though. Don't get it twisted.